Great. So before we actually start diving into the content itself today, I did want to point out some of those resources that are available to everyone. At any point, if you are looking for tips and tricks or any documentation or recordings of our previous webinar, they are all available to you. You do have customer success managers and support individuals here at Function Point that we do want to assist you, but sometimes our office isn't open, so I just want to make sure you know where you can access those things. And that is all actually through this information icon up here in the top right-hand corner of your system. You'll see the training, which will take you to our training website. This is where you can have access to the library of the mothership of how-tos. This is really one of my favorite spaces to go to. I kind of call it the encyclopedia of Function Point. It's got a lot of great resources for you, as well as, of course, just a simple searching tool up here to be able to access any of that. And then, of course, through this icon as well, we've got our webinars. So if you want to see any of our previously recorded webinars, even the one that we're recording today, we will be posting that later this week. And as we continue to record more webinars, those will all be available to you as well. But if there's actually any webinars that you would like to see in the future on topics that you think would benefit yourself as well as other Function Pointers, please let me know. I'm totally open to talking about new and different topics. So I'd love to hear them. What's new? So what's new is actually pretty fun. We are making lots of aesthetic changes to the system right now, as I'm sure some of you have noticed, and that's where you'll be able to see just posts and information regarding any of that. So check it out whenever you're able to. Of course, contacting support. We have an amazing support team here at Function Point. Yeah. Contact them anytime you need. They're usually more for technical support. If you feel like you need any additional training help, reach out to our success team. We're here to help with some of those things. And then, of course, submit an idea. So if there's anything you'd like to see in the system, a wish list, dream list, we want to hear it. Our product team wants to hear it. Yeah, so that is where you can submit directly to our product team any suggestions that you have. Okay, great. Laura, before I jump in, anything I'm missing that you think I should mention?
Nope, I think you got it covered.
Okay, awesome. Well then, getting started today, let's start with the managing your prospects within Function Point. So we do have ways of being able to manage your prospects and your clients just to help with knowing sort of like what prospects you have coming down the pipeline. So you can access any of these through your companies within your system. I'm just going to go directly to a prospect today to talk about some of the key fields that we really recommend using that are going to benefit you when pulling lists and of course for your reporting later on. So when you're here on the company page, there's a couple of key fields. The first one being the industry type. So this is a great way of knowing what industries you're working with and who you might need to target depending on some of the campaigns that you have. This is a mandatory field within the system, but of course, the more detail that you can put in here, it will benefit you in the future. So that, again, like this, if as an example of Boeing, you would know who any of your aerospace prospects are. For, of course, ourselves, it would be more specific towards the type of creative agencies that we're working with and who we maybe need to target depending on what campaigns we have running. The other key field is actually the qualifications stage here. This is actually, you know what, before I jump into that, I should actually talk towards the company type. So there are a few mandatory company types within Function Point. Of course, client is going to be the most straightforward one that you will regularly see because you want to, of course, keep your entire client list within the system. But the other one that really we're going to be talking towards today is the prospect. So this is a way of labeling all of your prospects, which of course will then pull into reporting later for yourself. And then you will tie that in using other fields to know what stage in the prospecting or sales process that they're in to know kind of where they're at and what potential you have with them. So for that, we usually recommend using the qualification drop down here. This will help you see what stage in your sales process this prospect is in. So we've got introduction, if they've been shown a portfolio yet, if you have any follow-up that maybe needs to happen, if you've actually sent out a proposal to them. So being able to know if there are proposals out and if there's some potential in there, agreement issued, and then of course if they have now become an official client, being able to change them into a client. Now, all of these drop downs are customizable. These are just examples that we have in our system, but if you have different terminology for your sales process, we can change all of this through the list maintenance area in the back end of the system, which I will show you in just a moment. Now, another interesting key piece is actually the source over here as well. This we really recommend using just to know where your opportunities are coming from. Where are you sourcing a lot of prospects? Are you finding them at trade shows? Is it through referrals from your vendors or from other clients that you have, or of course people that have just touched your website? So labeling where your sources are will really help you to know where to target for other future potential prospects. So if you're able to label this, it will, again, you'll be able to easily pull reports based off of those sources that you'll be able to manage in the future. The next kind of key piece is the custom fields. So with your companies and contacts, you can create custom fields within Function Point, and these can really be related to absolutely anything. For these custom ones, if you wanted to track like their Twitter or anything along those lines, you can definitely track that, maybe key contacts or anything along in that sort of general area. And this is done in a slightly different space than the list maintenance. It's actually done through custom fields, also in the back end of your system. So if you at any stage are wanting to change your qualifications, that would be through list maintenance. And then if you wanted to add additional custom fields, that would be through custom fields. And both of those are through admin up here, system setup, and then you'll see list maintenance, and then you'll see custom fields here. So they're pretty self-explanatory to go through. Take a look at them and see if there is any customization that you would like to make directly on some of the company data that you have and that you're wanting to pull and report on. Guess I should check in, Laura. Any questions, concerns, anything that you think I should address on screen?
No, everything sounds good so far.
Okay, awesome. I feel like I'm talking really fast. Should I slow down at all, or are we good? No?
No, sounds good to me.
Okay, glad to hear. All right then. So what I'd like to go into next is more workflows regarding the CRM. So we have Boeing now here as a potential client. They're a prospect for us. They've actually asked us to put in a bid for a piece of work. So you know, we are going to be having conversations with contacts there, and what I'm going to show you is just ways of sort of tracking some of those conversations, and other ways of then being able to just kind of report on some of it. Again, we will touch on the reporting sort of at the end and how it all ties in, but don't hesitate to ask any questions to Laura as we're going. So for this item here, what we're going to want to do is actually take a look at some of the notes. So we do have a few tools within Function Point where you can create notes that will then also tie into some follow-up tasks relating to prospecting for you. So at this point, we're actually going to come underneath here in contacts. And I know that Jerry is my main contact at Boeing right now, and he's who I've been talking to mostly. A shortcut for you to be able to tie our communication with Jerry directly to Jerry is actually just using this plus button over here on the right-hand side and adding a note directly to Jerry. This will be tracked underneath Boeing, but in just a second, I'll be able to show you how it will automatically attach Jerry as a contact here for you. Now, when adding a note, of course, you can have note templates. So if there is any template that you want when it comes to notes that need to be tracked related to a prospect, you can set those up ahead of time. But probably in a case like this, I just want to track just sort of general information relating to a conversation I had that maybe needs to be shared with other contacts in my team. So with this, had a conversation with Jerry. and any note details that you want to throw in here. Would like to have a proposal created for coming job. And of course, it's always the moment you are on a webinar that you can't spell anymore. So items around here, with this, we do have mandatory fields. You'll know what the mandatory fields are based off the little red asterisks that you have here. So you'll need to fill in a note title, the company that it's attached to, and then the category related to this note. So this category, it would be any sort of labeling that you need to know related to this. Now, what is interesting is actually this current status title here. This will actually feed into one of our forecasting reports that I'm going to touch on later in ways that it'll show you the most recent note that you've created with the status of current status. So I'm going to label this for here so that I can show you that through later on. We've got the contact Jerry. I'm not going to fill in the job because I don't actually have a job related to this potential piece of work yet. This is still just basic communication. If you wanted to create a follow-up task, you can do that with a follow-up date and time. So maybe next week. And then what we also have down here is our pin notes ability. So for myself, maybe I need Jimmy and Darren to also be a part of this communication because they've been a part of this opportunity with me, and they need to know that I've had this conversation with Jerry. So that's a great way of just being able to communicate internally by pinning notes directly to individuals' dashboards. Whenever we're ready, you can just click save. And then you'll be able to see the overview of that note here for you. So at any point now, you could go back to Boeing knowing that they're a prospect, and you would see any of the notes stored underneath there. So there's that note I just created. And then, of course, once we have tasks, which there was that one, again, that I created for next week to follow up on, and any potential prospecting estimates or jobs that are already active. The next workflow I'm going to go into will be creating those opportunities themselves. So we'll just wait on a second before diving into that. Now, with items like this, something I did want to touch on is just kind of a company find. So if at any point you're wanting to see, what kind of prospects you have and any information related to that, what we recommend utilizing is our company find. And you'll notice that this is actually available within any of the modules within Function Point are these find options. So I am at this stage where I'm actually wanting to see all of our currently active, oh, Laura's just giving me the eye, so I feel like I should check in on her. What's going on, Laura?
Yeah, okay. I had someone come in saying that they couldn't hear you, but it looks like now you're back. So if anyone else is experiencing audio issues, feel free to just send me through a note in the questions box at the bottom there.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. I wish technology was always our best friend, but unfortunately it likes to cut out occasionally. But yeah, if there's any audio issues, just let me know. Again, this is being recorded, so if for some reason you're needing to drop off, you will be sent the recording later on to be able to watch. Okay, but I'll maybe just back up a little bit. What I was just walking through is how to be able to find lists of all your prospects easily at any time, just for reference, either for your managers or for the AEs directly that need to know sort of what prospects they have on their plate and they need to be in contact with. So through the company, Find company, you will land on your Find Company page. You'll notice that all of these fields are the same ones as what we talked through on the company ad page earlier, or the company details page. So you can actually search by any of those at any time. So for the company type, I know that I want to search just for all of my prospects, and in the qualification stage of proposal stage, I just want to know all the prospects that currently actually have proposals out there. And then you could just search for that. So then this will pull up a smaller list for me. We have about 5 companies that actually have proposals out there right now, Boeing being one of them that we've been using for our example today. Now, what's really great about this company find list is you can actually manage these columns, and this is available on all of our find pages. It's actually one of my sort of favorite functions within Function Point. Usually 9 times out of 10, if someone's looking for a report, I can actually build it using one of these. Of course, there's different cases depending on the financials or something that you're looking for, but it really is a handy tool. So for this, I know that I'm going to want to pull this, and I actually want to see who the AE is related to all of this. So I'm going to make sure that the AE is a part of this company find. You can actually drag and drop these different columns as well to order them as you'd like. I'm just going to put them at the end here and save the columns. And you'll now see the changes that have happened. So I have these 5 companies that are in the proposal stage and who the appropriate AEs are that are communicating with them. All right, Laura, just checking in again. Audio still sounding okay? Any questions at all?
No, just a few have come in. Most I've been able to answer so far, but keep them coming.
Anything that you feel like I'm missing from those questions that maybe other people should be aware of?
Not necessarily. I think the one question was just really interested in seeing what you had actually listed under qualification and source. So I think that was a popular one for some guidance.
Awesome. Yeah. And with the items that were underneath qualification and source, those are things that our salespeople have recommended. But I've also had other salespeople saying that that's too many. So there are really lots of different ways of organizing that, depending on what your structure is. And so if you ever want to chat about that outside of the webinar, I'm happy to do that as well. Now the fun part, actually being able to see what potential opportunities are coming down the line. So for Boeing here today, I know that Jerry's asked for that example of potential piece of work to be able to put in for a bid with everyone else. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an estimate that we're going to be sending off to Jerry. And I'm going to show you a few key fields again that will tie into reporting in relation to estimating before things would actually be turned into an active piece of work. So this is our add estimate page. What we're going to do for today will be October 4th webinar, or actually no, let's new Boeing website. Of course, everything in here, all the blue lines are mandatory. As updates come again to our UI, you'll notice that it looks a little bit different than those company ad pages earlier. Those will be slowly trickling into the rest of the system as well. We're just sort of taking each module piece by piece. So you will notice changes on this page probably in the near future. But during this webinar, I'm sure it looks a little bit funny having slightly different aesthetics, but there will be more changes coming. Of course, labeling everything as detailed as you can with estimating, again, everything pulls through to those find lists and reporting. So the more detail you can give, the better. But of course, we understand that at the sales process, you maybe don't have everything at this point, and you want to keep it as simplistic as possible. And then you can come in and make changes once you've actually gained that piece of work. For today, we know that this is going to be a website. Our key contact is Jerry there. Our AE is Jess Bird. Jess is the one that works directly with Boeing mostly. Delivery date. This one is huge. So this would actually be the date that you would expect this piece of work to be completed by if you gain it. So for this, I'm maybe going to do it down to the end of December. Category, this is more related to once you gain the piece of work, so how you potentially invoice for it. This would probably be fixed price. Work type, media. But the two fields that are key when it comes to your prospecting and forecasting is this close probability and the month close. So this is the month you would expect to gain this piece of work and the probability you think you have of actually gaining it. So if we know that the delivery date for this estimate would be the end of December, and we would need at least 2 months to be able to complete this new piece of work, we would need to have this agreement by October. And you know what? I'm actually feeling pretty confident in this, so I'm going to give it an 80% probability of gaining this by the end of December. So I think this field's actually pretty smart. If you were to put in 0.8, it would still pull 80%. But you can fill it in as just 80. Again, anything from 10% to 100%, you can fill that in. And then, of course, any description that you might need to add into your estimate as well. Now, again, you might not know all of the different aspects that would be required to build out this new website, but as a sales individual, you know that you just need to have that dollar amount that you have agreed upon and kind of just get it out there. So in cases like that, you probably just want to come in here and put in a single service just so that you can estimate out what that dollar, that agreed upon amount would be. I'm just going to keep it pretty standard with client management here, and we're going to submit that. Now for this, we know that it's going to be $10,000. Of course, you can override anything that you might need here, change any of the wording up. You can put in the hours if you would choose to, but probably in these cases, you would just override it to that $10,000 that you have agreed upon with Boeing so that you can send out this estimate. So with this, you would then just save it. You could then print off this estimate to send off, and we now have this active potential piece of work. Now, what is a key piece in this is actually going to be utilizing the approval status. The approval status over here, we really recommend as a best practice to utilize this in Function Point. It's a great way of knowing what estimates you actually have out to your customers, what estimates have been approved, and what estimates have been declined. So at the end of the year, you can actually go through and review your declined estimates and know maybe where you went wrong and what pieces of work you shouldn't be chasing for the following year. So in cases like this, I'm going to submit this, knowing that I have submitted this estimate out to Jerry for him to review and hopefully approve so that we can get started on this piece of work. But this, of course, will still pull through to some of the reporting later. So if you can utilize this approval status, it will just help you with your organization and reporting later on. Laura, how are we doing over there? That was really like a main workflow I kind of wanted to go through before diving into the reporting. So are there any questions or anything you feel like I'm missing?
No, not necessarily. A couple questions came in. There were two on the topic of people are getting really excited to see some of this forecasting play out. So forecasting for companies that maybe have multiple jobs under that company, if there's a way to see the total, or just grouping jobs, for instance, if they have a project or something like that. So I think we're ready for some forecasting soon.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds great. So what I'm actually going to start with is just sort of some of the simple and easy reporting that we have. Again, using some of the estimate finds as well as a report that's available for you there. We should be able to see everything grouped in just around those comments from those individuals that want to see that. But of course, you can always filter by specific companies to see all jobs or estimates related to those for you. But I can point that out on the next page. So to get started on some of the simple reporting, would actually be using the estimate find. So similar to that company find that we were using earlier, we would find estimates. And again, you'll notice the different UI here that will be slowly moving into here later on for your use. But for today, what I want to know is actually all of our currently active estimates that have, and you can search by anything. So we'll actually have that close probability there for you, that month close if you're wanting to filter by those different items, job statuses. Now what I'm looking for is the approval status. Here we go. With the UI changes, now I'm having trouble finding some fields. You'll have to excuse me today, everyone. But what I want to know is actually all estimates that I currently have that have been submitted out to our prospects. This is a multi-select field, so if you wanted to click more than one approval status, you could. But just for today's example, I just want to see all statuses that are submitted. And then with that, we would then just search. And I only want to see active ones currently. I don't want to see everything. There might be some that have been made inactive or revisions that are being made, and I just want to see the most recent one. So you'll be able to see here all of the different submitted items that we have relating to all the different prospects. Now, where is that one that I just created for Boeing? That is not the same one. well, I must have filtered incorrectly in some way and missed it. But that's actually just a good example of how filtering can be really important to be able to pull up all the right information. Now, on this page, this estimate list, again, you'll see this manage columns option up here in the top right-hand corner. So you can filter by all of the information that you actually want to be able to see and review. Now, for a manager, we do have the probability and the month close options here, so you can see what those opportunities were. I'm just going to reorder this for myself because that estimate date is throwing me off. I'll just save those columns. So now you'll be able to see, based off of all of these submitted opportunities that are living in the system, what that probability to close with that month close options were and what the total amounts for those estimates were as well. So this is just a nice overview for the estimate list and what you currently have coming down the pipeline. Now, what we also have up here as well is this reporting icon. So this is going to produce an estimate list by client report. This is actually pretty handy and pretty straightforward report for you. It's going to break it out by the companies that you have and then the individual jobs living underneath those companies. It does just print as a basic PDF for you, but what's really handy here is it will also break out those dollar amounts based off if it's an internal service, an internal expense, or an external expense. So unlike the example I gave earlier, if you are breaking that out in greater detail, you will be able to see those dollar amounts for you. So yeah, this is just a really great sort of straightforward report. I think that this would actually be a really great example from some of those questions that Laura mentioned earlier, because you do have all of those prospecting estimates for you, and it will total everything up based off the company as well. So you'll see Samsung here is a good example with its 2 submitted active estimates, and then it's totaling everything. Now, this report will only pull based off of the find criteria you had done earlier. So if you feel like there's some jobs or some estimates that are missing, you will just need to go refine those search results that you had to be able to then pull in more data for you. And then, of course, again, just basic PDF, but any changes. PDFs we can't make any changes to. The next reports we're going to look at will actually be in a CSV or Excel format, so you can add in any formulas or make changes as you need to. All right, Laura, any questions? It looks like there was some activity over there with Leanne, maybe looking over your shoulder. Is there anything that we should touch on screen?
So nothing just yet. I think I'm working through answering most of these questions just through the question box, but I may get back to you in a couple minutes here. I think you're heading in the direction of some of these questions, so I don't want to jump ahead, but check in with me.
Got it. Love it. Yeah, so Laura, although she's not on her own, because it looks like Leanne is helping her out, you know, definitely typing out the answers could take some time. So if anyone's still waiting on an answer, don't worry. We will get to it before the end of the webinar. And if we are unable to, we will definitely get to it before the end of the day. So your questions will be answered. And hopefully diving into the next couple of reports I have, we'll be able to answer those for you as well. So we do have a couple of basic canned reports in the back end of the system, and those are through the reports module up here and the CRM and sales. So underneath here, the 2 that you're going to find the most interesting will be the new business by month close and % probability, and the new business by account executive and qualification level. So this is tying in again to the client and then those specific estimates and what you expected to be the chances of gaining that piece of work. And then, of course, another one where it's more around the conversion rates for your actual account executives and what work they're bringing in. It's just a good way of kind of knowing like their status and what's going on. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. We will actually dive into each of these as well. So with the new business and month by month close and % probability we'll get started with. with this month close, if you just leave everything unchecked, it will automatically pull every single month for you. With the approval status, I actually want to see submitted because we know that we have estimates out there that are submitted and are probably more key players in this because they're actually in the hands of your prospect. With company type, what I'm going to pull today is actually client and prospect, just because in cases of clients, you might have potential pieces of work out with them that they haven't approved yet, even though they've been a client of yours in the past. So the two most important are the client and that prospect options here. Now with account executive, we do have a number of account executives to choose from. I am just going to choose all of them just for our example today. And you can even filter by the qualifications. So again, those different stages, those different sales cycle stages that you might have, if you're wanting to see them filtered by those specific items. I'm going to leave these unchecked today, so it just pulls everything for our example today. I'm just going to submit that. Okay, now this report, again, it's going to break it out by the individual months. So we've got our top one here, close month. This is actually just a blank one, so it looks like we've got a few estimates that we don't actually know what the potential month is going to close in, but then it will break it out by each month following. So we've got January, we've got 3 potential pieces of work that we expect to close within January. At February, we've also got a few following with March and May. This will break out all of the different financial and just data that we have related to it. You know, something I can't really stress enough is that the more information you put into Function Point, the better reporting you're going to have. So if there are things that are missing, for example, this Suzuki Canada, we don't know the source, so those fields are going to be blank for you. So again, anything you can input, it's really a good idea. So of course, everything's pretty straightforward here. We've got our company type, the source, industry, who the AE is, work type, estimate number. But what's interesting is definitely all of the financial information back here. So the expense, this is just something I always like to touch on, is the expense gross revenue. That will be everything that you expect to gain. So that'll be cost as well as those markup percentages. It'll just be everything combined in there. We've got our number of hours if you've broken it out by that. And then, of course, we've got that close percentage. So that is the percent that we expect, the possibility we think we have of gaining that piece of work. And what it will actually do is we've got the close percent dollar amount. So that is based off of the total dollar amount and that percent and the dollar that would come out of that if we were to gain it. Now, the other item I want to touch on is now this note content. So how we created those notes earlier in the day, or sorry, in the webinar. We haven't been here all day quite yet. Earlier in the webinar, where we created that note with that current status. So this is where that pulls through to for you. So you'll be able to see based off the most recent note created for this prospect and the details that are a part of that, as well as if there was a follow-up task created for it as well. So you do have that data available to you directly on this report. Alrighty then. So we're gonna take a look at the next one. Again, the next one is very similar. I think it's all pretty much the exact same data, except for it's just organized a little bit differently. It will be organized by the individual account executive. So I'm going to just, again, check everyone here. It's most of the same filtering, just reordered slightly. So I want to see that submitted, and I want to see our clients and our prospects. Qualification, I want everything, as well as the month close, I want everything. You can filter by specific date ranges if you're wanting to see companies created during a specific time. For myself, I just leave it all open, and if you need to pull it again later because there's just too much data in there, you can always do that. So again, this report, it's almost identical, except for it's just been organized now with the account executive as that blue line to sort of start us all off. So we've got Brock here who has the different qualification levels. So our first one, he didn't put in that qualification level, so we're actually not sure. However, we do also have 2 more that are in the proposal stage, and then those individual estimates related to that. So with that, we do have, again, all that same financial data at the end, as well as the note content for you as well. So both of these are really great reports just to kind of pull maybe weekly or monthly if you prefer, just to sort of see the status of your individual account executives, where they're sitting, maybe if you need to check in to see if they need any help to sort of push some of these to actually become active work in your system. Laura, I'm just checking back in on those questions. Do you think I was able to cover anything in there or anything that I should touch on related to these reports?
Sorry, that's me just flipping through some of the questions. I think we're okay for now. I think these two reports are great. We had a couple of questions coming in about weighting forecasting. So just to clarify that these are weighting based on that close probability that we entered on the estimate.
Yeah, a lot of these are based on that, as well as, sorry, I'm just making sure that it's like this close percent dollar amount. That is weighting like what you expected what the estimated amount was versus the percent possibility of gaining it. So, you know, for example, the total here of $5,100, but you think you have a 0% chance of getting it, so you probably have a $0 forecast for you coming in. So, yes, you are correct, Laura. All right. Awesome. So the last item I kind of wanted to touch on is actually time tracking in general within Function Point. So obviously you're wanting your sales, your account executives and your salespeople to track time so that you know sort of where their time and efforts are being put in daily. There are two main ways to track time within Function Point. The first one that we would really recommend as the most straightforward would actually be as an in-house job, and allowing them to put detail directly into their timesheets for you to know like who their efforts are going towards. With that, with an in-house job, it's actually pretty straightforward. I did just create a new business development job here for you, but at any point you could fill that in, know that I spent 2 hours estimating that Boeing proposal earlier. Jerry. And you could track time to that. So that is pretty easy and probably the easiest way of time tracking for your salespeople. Then you just have one job that you maybe need to review and see where their time tracking is happening daily. And so this would definitely be our best practices. Now, there is another way if you wanted to track time directly to the opportunity that is happening so that you know how much time and effort is being put into that opportunity itself. So with that, we could actually come back to that new Boeing website, know what's happening there. We would have to turn this into a job, and you'll see these financials. So what your salespeople could do is actually track time directly to client management. What we would even recommend is maybe create a new service called like pitching or proposal so that they could track time directly to that. So it's not going to skew the rest of the financial data for you once this does turn into an active piece of work, but still being able to see and track how much time was put into the proposal. So that's just a very high level overview of time tracking. Laura, were there any questions around that? Or of course, we do also have resources that we could provide for more time tracking as well.
Yeah, I just have one recent question come in here, and it's a great one. So I'm curious your thoughts on it as well. I was just typing out a response, but it might be something on the chat about on the air here. But so they're asking, how does adding a revenue schedule impact forecasting? So where do you see people using revenue schedule versus where they'll be using the percent close and probability?
Good question. So the revenue schedule is definitely used more commonly, at least just from my experience, once we know that it is actual pieces of work and the times that you would expect dollar amounts to come in based off of your invoicing. So I don't think I would really tie it in to the forecasting itself. I guess technically you could, but I don't think it would really be accurate data. So I probably wouldn't recommend anyone use those together. Yeah, the revenue schedule will be used more once you know it is a piece of work. Laura, is there anything you'd want to add to that at all, or?
No, I think that was my same line of thinking. I just kind of wanted to have you confirm that as the expert.
Oh, well, thanks. Awesome. Well, that was really everything I kind of wanted to touch on today. We were able to scoot this webinar into 45 minutes rather than taking up your full hour today, guys. Again, we do have another webinar scheduled for 2 weeks from now, October 18th, where we're just going to talk about effective and efficient estimating. I really hope that everyone wants to join us to talk again on that day. If you have any questions, concerns, things that you just didn't get a chance to ask on the webinar today, don't hesitate to reach out to our success team at success@functionpoint.com, and we'll help you either via email or organizing a call to talk through your specific scenarios with you. But yeah, connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, all those fun social media outlets, and unless we'll actually stay on for another couple of minutes just to answer any additional questions that are maybe trickling in. But we look forward to seeing you guys at another future webinar. Thanks for joining me today, Laura. It was a pleasure having you on here.
Thanks for having me back a second time.
Oh my gosh, we'll have you again. Don't worry.
So kind of you.
All right then. Thanks, FP family, for joining us today, and we will talk to you all soon.